Hello, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Well, first of all, Mark Anthony, thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. I appreciate it. He's from San Antonio. Who else is from San Antonio? All right, we got a few folks. I know that we have folks from all over the state of Texas. Anybody from Houston? How about Dallas? El Paso? You got a good El Paso crowd. Anybody from the Valley? There you go, the Valley's loud today. All right. How about anywhere else in East Texas or West Texas? How about right here in Austin? Who's here from around Austin? Y'all are a little quiet today. Well, wherever you're from, first of all, let me say a huge congratulations to all of you for the success that y'all have already had. And the fact that you're here in this program. I understand this is your second day here and the first day where y'all are really going through the program, and so I hope that everybody's enjoying themselves and that you get a lot out of this experience. Mark Anthony, you mentioned at the very end, I actually have a twin brother, Joaquin. Some of y'all may know my twin brother, Joaquin, is in Congress, and he likes to go around telling people that the way you tell us apart is that I'm a minute uglier than he is. But that's not true. If you ever see him, tell him that that's wrong. Joaquin and I grew up on the west side of San Antonio with my mother and my grandmother. And my grandmother had come when she was 7 years old, along with her younger sister, from Mexico because their parents had died. And the nearest relatives that they had were here, were in San Antonio. And she never finished elementary school because they took her out. And because of that, she worked as a maid, a cook, and a babysitter for her whole life. And I can remember being a senior in high school, and on April 3rd, 1992, running out to the mailbox with my brother and finding in the mailbox these two packets. We had been applying to college that year and had looked up U.S. News and World Report and seen like the top 10 or 11 schools, and we got fee waivers to apply to them, and we applied to all of them. And on April 3rd, 1992, we found these two packets in the mailbox. And I have to say, how many of y'all have applied to college? I think a lot of the folks here are juniors or rising seniors, so that's coming up. You generally want to get a packet and not a letter, because if you get a letter, it could be a thank you but no thank you letter. So we ran in with our packets and we ripped them open, and the letter inside said, "Congratulations and welcome to the Stanford class of 1996. And I wish that I had one of the cell phone cameras that all of us have today, so that I could have taken a picture of my grandmother's face to see how happy she was, because she never could have imagined that kind of opportunity for herself or even for my mother or for us. And that's what I think about that moment when I think of y'all. I wanted to first say that I'm happy to be here because I know that in your own families that you have come a long way, that your families have made tremendous sacrifices over the years and over the generations so that you can be here in this moment with this opportunity and with the future that you have ahead of you. And so congratulations on all of that. The second reason that I'm happy to be here is because our country needs you today more than ever before. A few months ago, I was in San Francisco, and have any of y'all been on those fancy elevators these days that have like a video screen on them? It looks like generic cable that comes out. Well, this generic cable program was playing, and it said that it was Republic Day in India. And in India, Republic Day is sort of their national day of pride. And I remembered that 5 years earlier, I had been in India because one of the sister cities of San Antonio that I was mayor of at the time was this city called Chennai. And while we were watching the Republic Day ceremonies, one of the government officials there told me that there were 400 different engineering programs in the state of Tamil Nadu that Chennai sits in alone. And it reminded me that today, that we live in this world in which brain power is the new currency of success. that the United States is competing against and collaborating with countries all over the globe that are producing tons and tons of young people with the talent and the intelligence and the ambition to succeed and to spark the kind of ideas and companies and products that are going to drive prosperity in the years to come. And so what that means for the United States of America, for our country, is that we need everybody's talent. And we especially need people like you, folks who are intelligent, who are ambitious, who are well on their way to making a mark in whatever career you choose to go into. And so I'm happy to be around so many people that our country truly is counting on to make sure that we can prosper in the 21st century the way that America has been able to prosper in the years past. So I thought today that I would share with you, as y'all begin this Subiendo program, a little bit about my own experience, just 4 quick moments, and then tell you what I learned from them. And I hope that you'll take that with you as you go forward. I mentioned that my brother and I grew up with my mother and my grandmother on the west side of San Antonio, and we went to the public schools our whole life, in the Edgewood Independent School District and then the San Antonio Independent School District. And I remember this one day sitting in English class in the 8th grade. I know that was only 3 years ago for y'all if you're juniors, but it was a long time ago for my brother and me. So I was sitting in the middle of 8th grade class, and there was this guy that was maybe 2 rows behind me, and he kept talking while the teacher was trying to teach. And at one point near the end of the class, the teacher stopped the class and she said, "Young man, you know, you can get away with that while you're an 8th grader, but next year when you're in high school, there's no way that you're going to be able to do, you know, what you're doing. There's no way you're going to be able to keep messing around like that and still graduate." I said, "Oh, okay." So I think he started behaving. I remember that, and then I remember a few years later being in college, or being in high school, and hearing about college, that college was so tough that you had to study 3 hours for every 1 hour that you were in class. And then I remember being in college and hearing that law school, when I was applying to law school, was so bad that students would go into the library and tear pages out of the books so that other students, their classmates, couldn't get their homework done or their class assignments done, and they would do better than those other students. And then I remember being in law school and getting ready to go into the working world to become a lawyer, and hearing that working in a law firm was so tough that you didn't have time for anything else except billing hours. You had no social life, no opportunity to do anything except stay in the office and bill hours. And the thing is that high school was a little bit harder than middle school, but basically, if you had done well in middle school, you could do well in high school. And college was a little bit harder than high school, but it didn't take 3 hours to study for every 1 hour that you were in class. And law school was a bit tougher than college had been, but the people were fine. Nobody was tearing out pages of any books. And the law firm required a lot of attention and a lot of hard work, but it wasn't nearly the disaster that I'd been led to believe. What I learned from that was that oftentimes, when we are getting ready to go to the next level in life, oftentimes we freak ourselves out about that next level. Whether it's when you're in middle school going to high school, or when you're in high school going on to college, or college going on to the working world or to grad school. And I've found that 99% of the time those myths aren't true. And that if you keep on doing what you've been doing that has led you to be successful, that you should have every single confidence that you're going to continue to be successful in the years to come. Don't let the idea that the next level is so much harder cause you to shy away from continuing to reach as high as you can for success. The fact that you're here, that you've already succeeded, that says more than anything else about your potential. Believe in yourself. Don't ever let yourself question whether you belong somewhere, because the answer is that you do, and you've already shown that. The second experience is from a few years later, the first party that I went to in college. I think we have a few college students here. Is anybody in college? Yeah, they're like, hiding right now. Y'all don't go to any parties, I'm sure. So my brother and I went to Stanford together, and we started school. And I remember maybe a few weeks after college started, I went to the first party that they had, at least that I knew about, and it was at a dorm right next door to the dorm that I lived in. Right? And so as soon as I got to the party, the first thing that I saw was a keg of beer and 2 stacks of those red Solo cups. You know those red Solo cups? Plastic cups? And I remember that it was the first time that I ever felt what people would describe as peer pressure. Like the need to belong to the crowd, the need to fit in. And I remember that I went to where the keg and the red Solo cups were, and I got a cup, and then I went to the restroom, and I filled the cup with water. And I walked around all night at that party, every now and then sipping from the cup, pretending to drink beer, but I was actually drinking water. I remember that because I very rarely drink. There was a time when Joaquin and I were growing up that my mother was drinking too much. And as a 9 or 10-year-old, that scared me, when she and other people would get drunk. And so I just never started drinking. But that day, I felt so much like I had to fit in that I changed really who I was. And what I learned from that, because that was the last time that I ever did anything like that, what I learned from that is that you should always believe in yourself enough to be yourself, to be who you are. And I don't mean whether it's just whether you drink or not or do other things. I mean about what you believe, about your background and being proud of who you are. Just be yourself. And I learned that if you are yourself, that it allows other people to like you and be your friend and love you even for who you are. And it also allows you to have deeper friendships because people really are around you because they know you. And it allows them to be themselves also. And the relationships that you can form will be deeper. I say that because y'all are about to embark in the next year or so on a period of your lives that is a lot about transition and change. And sometimes that change is good, but sometimes that change can be bad. As you navigate that, always remember who you are, where you come from, the people that love you, and believe in yourself enough to be who you are. The third moment I wanted to share with you was from about 5 years after that. I graduated from college in 1996, and my brother and I had gotten into law school, but our grandmother had passed away a few months before, and so we decided to defer a year. Like law schools and other grad schools will often let you put off going. You get admitted, but then you can put off actually starting for a year or 2 years. And we wanted to come back home to San Antonio to be with our mother and to spend some time back home after we had been away at college. And the question was, well, what was I going to do with my time? I had to do something and make some money and get ready for law school. And so I was a permanent substitute teacher at my old high school, Jefferson High School. On the day that I turned 22, the principal called me into her office and asked if I would take over these 3 classes, these 3 high school classes. And she said, I think that one of the teachers had had a nervous breakdown and would I take over their classes. And one of the classes had 37 people, one of the classes had 38, and one of them had 39. So these were huge classes that we had. And on the 3rd or 4th day that I was there, I turned around to write something on the blackboard. You know, we still use blackboards instead of whiteboards. And some guy from the back of the room like rolled up 3 or 4 pages of loose leaf paper and he chunked it at the back of my head and it hit me. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know whether to like turn around and try and figure out who had done that and send them to the vice principal's office, or to pretend like it never happened and save my dignity, which is, I think, what I tried to do. But I remember that I would go home every day and feel like I had to take a 3-hour nap because I was so exhausted from the day trying to manage that classroom and get folks to learn and to buckle down and to concentrate. Maybe some of y'all know the experience of being in classrooms like that. And you know how in life, if you've been a good student, or for those of y'all that are a little bit older, if you've been a good supervisor somewhere, a good employee, people will come up to you and they'll tell you, oh, you were such a good student, or sometimes these days people will tell me, oh, you know, you were such a great council member when you represented us, or a good mayor. None of those students has ever come up to me in the years since then and said, you know what, you were a great teacher, because I was terrible. But what it taught me was the value of always being prepared for what you do. You see, the problem was that I really wasn't prepared to teach. I didn't have a teaching certificate, and yet I was a permanent substitute teacher in there every single day like a regular teacher. I didn't know how to manage the classroom. I didn't know how to effectively convey a lesson, how to get folks to, you know, pay attention again if they were acting up. And so a lot of it was just spent wasting everybody's time. I don't want to overdo it. I hope they learned something. But my point is, always be prepared. When you go to college in a year or so, that first year that you go into is the most important year. Make sure that your first priority is always to do the work, to study, to understand what you need to know, and then to do the hard work of succeeding. There is no substitute in life for actually putting in the work and being prepared. And no matter what happens, that will serve you well in the years to come. The good news is that if y'all are here, that means that you understand that you've been prepared for a long time, and that you care enough about your future to invest the time and do the work that's necessary to succeed. And then finally, I wanted to share a moment from much more recently. From 2014 to 2017, as Mark Anthony mentioned, I had the privilege of serving as the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development for President Obama. And basically, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, as the name might suggest, is in charge of working with states and cities to create greater housing opportunity and help revitalize communities that are distressed and that need it. And so, during my time there, those 2.5 years that I served, I had the chance to travel to 100 different cities in 39 states. You can imagine that I got to see a lot of different places and meet interesting people and understand what was working and what didn't seem to be working. And I'll never forget that on one of those visits, I had the chance to meet a gentleman at the site of housing that was being renovated for the purpose of providing housing to veterans who had been homeless. One of the things the Obama administration was working hard on was trying to eliminate veteran homelessness, because a large number of the people that you see on the street, unfortunately, are veterans. And the gentleman that I met said that he was the developer of the project. In other words, he was in charge of creating that project, creating those housing units. He said that he was a veteran, and that at one time he had been homeless too. And so this project that he was working on was his way of making sure that other people could be blessed with the same opportunity for a second chance that he had been, so that they could get back up on their feet and they could live a good life. And I'll never forget that, and what it taught me, and really what it reminded me, was that all of us, in different ways, should always find a way to give back. All of you already, I think, in life have been blessed with intelligence and with success, and you're going to see a lot more of that in the years to come. I hope that no matter what you end up doing, that you'll always find a way to make sure that other people can have the same kind of success that you're having and that you're going to have even more of in the years to come. And the thing is that doesn't have to be through something like running for office, although a lot of people do. It can also be through a nonprofit that you volunteer for, or through your church that you volunteer for, do work with, through your neighborhood association, through the company that you work for, that you own. You can make a contribution to ensuring that other people have the kind of great opportunity that you'll have in the years to come. And so I hope that y'all will always remember that. And finally, let me just say how proud I am of each and every one of you. If we had had this kind of program a couple of generations ago, I'm convinced that we would have had even more young people of color that were well on their way to great success in our state. But the good thing is that we do have this Subiendo program now, and you're here. I hope that you'll take advantage of it, and I hope for you that in all of the places that life is going to take you, to college, to the working world, to crossing the stage and getting your diploma and then getting your degree later, to one day watching your own children cross the stage and get their degree, in all of the years to come, I hope that you'll always believe in yourself, that you'll always remember where you came from, that you'll always surround yourself with people who love you and believe in you, and help ensure that you provide opportunity for others as well. And if you do that, I'm convinced that you can be part of ensuring that we make the 21st century one that all Texans and Americans can be proud of. Congratulations, and I hope you all have a wonderful program. Okay.